Many have asked me what I'm doing here, why I'm here, why I'm sticking my neck out for two very controversial speakers who have been accused of espousing hate speech. After all, I'm a member of the clergy. I espouse love. I'm supposed to espouse love for all people, Jew and non-Jew alike. So why get involved with something controversial like this? It would have been so much easier to have declined the invitation, although it's very hard to say no to my friends Mayor and Julius and to my good friend Brian Ceresny also. I'm grateful for inviting me. First, I should tell you that I'm here on behalf of three very important people who are not able to be here tonight. The first two are Muslims that had a very deep and profound impact on my life. Before moving to Toronto, my family and I were living in Los Angeles, and in addition to my rabbinic duties, I was a graduate student at UCLA in the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Cultures. It was there that I studied Arabic, interacted with many different kinds of people from the Middle East, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and people of no particular faith. I studied medieval Jewish and Islamic philosophy and feel that I was very enriched by the entire experience. My eyes were open to an entire world of Muslims who were very much like you and me, who came to the United States and to Canada to make a better life for themselves, to better themselves educationally, and to become part of a Western democratic free society. The first person I'm here on behalf of is my professor, Professor Hossein Ziai, a Muslim from Iran who was the head of Iranian and Islamic studies at UCLA. Professor Ziai had a masterful intellect and was a prolific translator of medieval philosophical works, and he was my supervisor during my period at the university and was the one who greenlighted my master's degree. I was really supposed to go and advance towards the PhD, but then the Bayit happened and now we find ourselves in Toronto. But it's really bashert. It was really serendipity that would happen, since 1 month after we left, Professor Ziai passed away from cancer that he had hidden from all of his students. The professor and I spent a lot of private time together in his office studying medieval Arabic texts. Once in a while, he would vent about the goings-on in Iran and the Middle East and expressed his great frustration with the Ayatollahs and the Great Oppression that his very westernized colleagues and students and friends and family were facing in Iran. He couldn't understand why Israel was being, in his words, so soft on its enemies. Usually, I just nodded. I didn't want to get into any heated political discussions with him because, after all, I needed to pass. But he was more of a Zionist, more of an impassioned defender of human rights than I am, and I miss him dearly. The second person that I am representing tonight is a man by the name of Tashbih Sayed, who is the former editor of two English-language newspapers that were published in Southern California. One was called Pakistan Today, and the other one was called Muslim World Today. Familiar with those newspapers? Tashbih was a Pakistani Muslim who lived in Southern California and was a courageous defender of moderate Islam. He spent his career publishing his newspaper, which was critical of radical Islam and called for peace and reconciliation. He was an outspoken defender of Israel's rights to exist and to defend herself. And I even had him speak in my synagogue in LA one Shabbos after services, and he and his family joined me at our Shabbos table afterwards. There was a fatwa, a death call out on the head of Tashbih, but that never stopped him from speaking up, from defending truth and justice. Sadly, his life too was snuffed out way too early, and the world is that much worse off without his voice, so I'm here for him as well. And finally, I'm here representing one other person. That person, unlike the previous two, thank God, is very much alive. He's also a good friend and a colleague of mine, and that's Rabbi Mendel Kaplan of the Chabad of Flamingo. And I should say, perhaps by extension, many other of my rabbinic colleagues who were browbeaten and pressured and oppressed to the point where they had to revoke invitations to Pamela Geller to speak. If it weren't for Rabbi Kaplan's efforts to invite Pamela Geller to speak in Toronto last year, you and I probably would not have known as much as we do about our speakers tonight. Rabbi Kaplan was placed in an untenable and impossible position of either canceling Ms. Geller's visit or risk losing his police chaplaincy. There's no question that he's doing incredible work on behalf of the Jewish community and the entire York region, remaining as the chaplain, and so I certainly understand and defend his position. But I feel that the pressure that was brought to bear upon him was unjust and immoral. I am American, and any time a governmental agency tries to suppress free speech, I bristle and am ready to react very strongly to defend what I believe is everyone's unalienable rights. And so I am here on behalf of my friend Rav Mendel, who I know supports our speakers this evening and would have loved to host this event himself. And so I'm here tonight to represent those who could not be here. I'm here on behalf of those who believe that what our speakers have to say tonight is not hate speech. Hate speech incites hatred and calls for violence against entire groups of people that are identified by their race, creed, or religion. Our speakers are not here to tell you that all Muslims are bad. My friends, one of the things that I learned at UCLA in speaking with some of my Arabic friends is that there is a great struggle taking place in the Middle East today. It is a struggle for the very heart and soul and identity of the Arabic world and the larger Islamic world. You see, every religion has periods in its history of which it is not proud. There were periods in Jewish history when Jewish leaders were excessively violent. Just take a look at the book of Judges, chapter 19, to find out about the bloody civil war that occurred as a result of the horrible gang rape and murder of an innocent concubine in Israel. Read of the violent legacy of the Hasmoneans and of the Bar Kokhba group during and after the Second Temple. Certainly Christians have much to be ashamed of over their past violence, especially against Jews and yes, Muslims as well. The Crusades, both in Europe and in the Holy Land, were some of the bloodiest periods in Western history. Inquisitions and pogroms have been waged against European Jews for centuries, all in the name of Christianity. And after all, we, the Jewish people, were the Christ killers for so many centuries. But what happened for both ancient Judaism and medieval and modern Christianity is that eventually there was an enlightenment, there was a realignment of ideology. There was a realization over a long period of time that perhaps we've got it wrong. Perhaps the justifications we can find for violence in our Holy Scriptures, whether it be the Torah or the New Testament, maybe there's another way to read those texts. And maybe all this killing and religious coercion is just plain wrong. And so by the 20th century, we need a new kind of Christianity, which by and large doesn't hate the Jew or seek vengeance for our killing of their God. Now there's a recognition that you can be saved without converting to Christianity. Christianity adapted to the Western value of democracy and freedom of expression and freedom of religion. And this is where we meet our Muslim brethren today. There are many Arabs and Muslims who are already rereading the texts of the Quran and the Hadith so that there is no contradiction between Western democracy and Islam. To those Muslims we say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. We are your brother, we understand your past, we understand the struggle and the conflict, and we salute you for your determination to reconcile your faith with your values of freedom for all. But there are other Muslims, thankfully a minority within the Muslim world, but a minority that must be reckoned with, who have not been able to find reconciliation between their fundamentalist reading of their Holy Scriptures and Western democracy. These people who are fervently religious and completely faithful to Islam cannot find common ground between Islam and Western democracy, and thus feel compelled to choose Islam over democracy. What's more, they believe that it is their religious duty to suppress Western democracy and bring about Islamic law and ideology as the prevailing rule of law and ethics wherever Muslims live, whether it be in the Middle East, Iran, or North America. This is the struggle and conflict within modern Islam today, a struggle for the very soul of over 1 billion people worldwide. Our first speaker, Pamela Geller, is trying to support those moderate Muslims who seek reconciliation and integration with Western society. If you listen to what she says, you will hear the message clearly, and I don't believe you will be hearing anything close to what is called hate speech. The sad thing is, there is so much that the Jewish community and the Islamic community can accomplish and work towards together. I would rather be going to Quebec with my fellow Jewish and Islamic clergy to fight against the horrific new ban being proposed against external religious garb for people in the public workplace. The attack is no less on religious Jews than it is on religious Muslims, and so we are equally outraged. There is so much we people of faith share in common. Let's get past the radicalism of Islam, and let's have moderate people of faith work together to make life better for both Jews and Muslims. It's unfortunate because if only the National Council of Canadian Muslims would stop their efforts at suppressing the truth about radical Islam, if only they would stop attacking people who are merely speaking the truth, we'd be able to accomplish so much more by working together. Instead of condemning Pamela Geller, they should be thanking her for her attempt to expunge the violent and anachronistic parts of Islam and instead bringing it into the modern world so that it can take its rightful place as part of the beautiful tapestry that makes up our democratic and free society. I look forward to a time when there will be no rancor or enmity between any human being, and certainly not among people of faith. Your Allah is our Hashem, and inshallah, Be'ezrat Hashem, we can accomplish much together. So why am I here tonight? Because, as the 18th century political philosopher Edmund Burke said, all that is necessary for triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Fortunately, we have a good man and a good lady here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome and introduce Ms. Pamela Geller.